Apple Intelligence is out now. iOS 18.1 is coming out today.
Yep, macOS 15.1 as well.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I always just think of iOS 18.1, but it's the point ones on the different platforms. iPadOS, iOS, macOS. They're all out now with the first set of Apple Intelligence features. I'm going to run through these real fast to kind of just remind everybody what's in them, because we've spoken about this quite a bit over the last few months. Writing tools, the new Siri design that has some updated understanding, better photo search and memory creation, notification summaries, the reduce interruptions focus mode, smart reply in mail and messages, which I have never seen once. I have never seen this feature, like where it pops up the little sheet and lets you choose, and it'll write. I've never seen this. I don't even know where it is supposed to be. Priority mail messages. This is where it shows like an email is a priority. Email summaries and transcription in notes. So, how are you feeling about 18.1? I know you just put out a big article on 6 Colors as we were going live today.
Yeah, Dan and I did we collaborated on, because there's a lot in there, I called it the Apple Intelligence Point 1 review, which is weird, right? But and I've been calling it like first wave of features. It's a mixed bag. I find that, okay, first off, they showed developer beta of 0.2 last week, right? So that's a big thing.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that for sure.
And what I'll say about it now is I think it was really smart, right? Because when they're releasing 0.1, they're also pointing at 0.2 and saying, and also these features. And it's just like them having a public beta of 0.1 when they ship the iPhone. They are trying to make the story about the next thing so that you don't think of the gestalt of the thing as just what's shipping, but also about what's about to ship, which you could say that that's sort of marketing and a little bit cynical, but you could also say that those are real features that are coming soon. They're not promises that are unclear. They're like code that's shipping, even though it's not shipping to everybody. And then I would assume fairly soon there'll be a public beta of 0.2, and people will be able to opt into that as well. So that when they're talking about Apple Intelligence, they can talk about, well, this is now and this is coming, and you can, it's already available for developers and it's next up. And I think that that's smart, because it changes this conversation and lots of conversations to not just be about 0.1. It's also funny because I think if you had shipped the 0.1 and 0.2 features together, it would be much more impressive. Because the 0.1 features do feel a little like the ones that were ready and maybe even would have been part of the OS release without the Apple Intelligence push, some of them. The Siri stuff is not really improved in 0.1.
No.
Other than the look, it's not really any different.
Like the changes that they are saying are a fun demo, but I'm not really sure is a thing that people were running into, that they had to constantly trip over themselves to ask Siri questions. I'm not convinced that is really a thing that people were doing, having conversations with Siri.
There's going to be improved Siri in 0.2 and really in 0.4, right? Yeah. Next year is when a lot of the stuff that we wish Siri would be better at will be better at.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a lot of time. But okay, so summaries are useful. And I know we've talked about this before, but just to get it out there again, I find summaries useful. They're not 100% useful, but summarizing conversations, summarizing notifications, summarizing emails in the preview instead of the first 2 lines of text can be very useful. And I don't find it detrimental. And I had, in my example, I know a lot of people have had similar examples. My example was the multiple alerts I get from my home irrigation app that my front yard drip irrigation is turned on and is going to run and has now run and is off. And that gets turned into a single thing that says drip irrigation ran and concluded at 7:58 p.m. It's like, yep. Swipe, done, right? I don't need that. Coalescing that into one summary is great.
Yeah, I feel like this is a thing that, especially online right now, this feature, people are really having a good time making fun of it. And there's just lots of memes and engagement bait around I'm going to post this thing or whatever. There was this one that was going around about a message, while person is breaking up with you,
Yeah.
And Joanna Stern had an interview with Craig Federighi and mentioned that to Craig, and I really liked Craig's response, which was kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, it works better with some places than others, but realistically, nobody should be getting broken up with by a text anyway. Like, no matter how you get that notification, it's
Doesn't
never a
matter.
good one. But
Exactly.
my feeling is this is actually, in point one, the absolute best feature is the notification summaries. It doesn't work for all types of apps. Like, for example, I get notifications for Overcast. I just have them go to Notification Center, so I know when my podcasts are posting. But that, like, Overcast notifications includes the kind of description of the episode, long descriptions of podcast episodes that are essentially unrelated to each other. Does not make sense for a notification summary. But the thing is, you can just turn them off individually for certain apps. So my recommendation for people that are installing point one today for the first time is give it a bit of time in the notification summaries. Like, I guarantee there's going to be at least a handful of applications where you're going to be like, oh, this is better. Like, similarly, Jason, I have our home security system. I have like a notification when the doors open and close. And like, I just saw it then. It was like multiple status changes, door recently closed. It's like, that's kind of all I need to know. Right? Like, I don't need to see open, closed, open, closed, open, closed, right? Like, this is a better system for that. But you kind of just got to see where it ends up working for you.
Yeah. Other features, photos cleanup is finally here. It's good. It should have been here years ago. It shouldn't require Apple Intelligence level hardware to run. But they did a good job. It's pretty good at removing stuff from the background, and it does this thing. One of the things that I've noticed about this, and this really continues in point two, is Apple's really leaning into the stagecraft of Apple Intelligence, where everything's got that Apple Intelligence rainbow glow thing. And cleanup is one of those places where it doesn't just give you a tool. When you tap cleanup in the editing mode in Photos, it scans your photo for things it thinks you would be likely to want to remove, and then makes them do a shimmer effect, and you can just tap on them to remove them. Now, that's not necessary, but I think it's part of the showmanship here, is they want to like give you examples of like, how about this guy who's standing in the background? Maybe we could get rid of him. But it's a good feature. It's just interesting to see how they play it. And then, for me, the one that really I think makes me think a lot is writing tools, which in point one, okay, I'm a writer. I have been a writer for a long time. And I'll just say, if I give a paragraph I've written to writing tools and have it rewrite it, it makes it worse. Bottom line, it just makes it worse. But that's what LLMs do. LLMs are all about flattening it to the middle. They are the most mid of things like that. It's all about the aggregate
middle of all of the all of internet language, right?
So all of language. So you're going to get something.
Yeah.
The middle. So it does stuff that's, it replaces words with other words that are synonymous, it feels very much like a student who's trying to file off the edges of a thing that they're plagiarizing, so that it doesn't seem like they're plagiarizing it. It'll just swap in synonyms. I'm like, why did you even do that? And it simplifies things, and it makes things more cliched. And so, easy for me to say, but like that was my personal experience with it. However, I do think it's really important to say a lot of people, not the people who are writing about Apple Intelligence, by the way, for obvious reasons, a lot of people struggle with written material. That's not their strongest thing. I know you use AI for some podcast writing, right?
For quite a lot of things, because I'm not a writer.
Right.
I'm not,
and you're not comfortable with that form, and yet there are lots of things that require writing.
The things that sometimes I have to write get seen by lots of people, and I am very insecure about posting some of this stuff because, like, it was all in good fun, but like there was a point where a bunch of friends of mine were collecting screenshots of all of my spelling mistakes, and like that was just like a thing, and it was like one of these things where it's fun when it's a joke between friends, but then it like expands out into the world, and like I think now I am insecure about like my writing, and so I like to be able to have systems where I can say like, here is a piece of text that I'm writing, can you check this for me? And I would say in point one, the proofreading is fine, but it's not like super great. It's better in point 2, because you can describe your changes. But obviously, you would never use these tools because you are a writer in the same way that I would never use a tool that would produce a podcast for me.
Right. So, and this is my point is, I know that, but I want to point it out because I do think that there are some people who are like, oh, I don't know why, and it was a good thought experiment for me because it was like, okay, if I give it something I write, it drains it of personality and kind of makes it boring. But there are lots of people, lots of very smart people, in fact, but writing is not their thing. My dad was a very smart person, and he was a terrible writer. He just couldn't do it. He couldn't spell it. He just couldn't. It wasn't a thing that he could do. And also, I haven't even gotten to it yet, but the other very clear application here is people who are not comfortable in English because English isn't their primary language. And there's a lot of that too. So I think that there's a lot of this that is going to be really great for a lot of people because it's going to give you a safety net. You select your text. It just comes with your computer, comes with your phone. You select the text and you say, rewrite this or make it friendly or make it professional. Like, how many 20-year-olds are out there who are applying for an internship or a job or something, and they suddenly have to write an email to their prospective employer, and they have no idea what it means to be professional. And I say that as a parent of 2 kids in their 20s now. Like, they have no idea. They have no idea. And sometimes they send us their things that they're writing and say, can you look at this and see if this is okay? So imagine being able to just go, can you make this professional? Because I don't know how to do that, and have it do it. I think that's great. Obviously, with all these tools, you should look at the output and make sure that you're comfortable with what you get out of it. But I do think that there are a lot of people who are just completely at sea when it comes to written language, in English, in this case. More languages to come. But and I think that that's great. So I think that there's a lot to be said for writing tools. And it's very easy to be cynical about it if you're somebody who's comfortable with writing. But think of everyone else. I'd say think outside yourself and think of all the different applications to this. Now, a friend of mine who is also a professional writer, his comment to me about it when we were talking about it this weekend was, and I hadn't thought of this, is like, sometimes somebody sends you an email and you're really angry about it, and you write an angry response. And he said, there is some value in selecting it and saying, make this professional.
Yeah,
or make this friendly.
And everybody's had that email that they sent that they wish later that they hadn't sent.
Right. Now, you still have to think about running it through the AI. I do think that there's a mode that is undoubtedly coming, which will allow your apps of choice to say, this looks a little angry. I know there used to be, way back when, Eudora actually had a semantic analysis feature, believe it or not. And Eudora has been gone for so long now, but it had a semantic analysis feature back in the early 2000s that would actually show you little spicy peppers. If you had, like, if you were really, really angry, it would be like, oh, there's 3 peppers here. And I think you could set a threshold where it warned you and was like, are you sure you want to send this spicy email? But I think that will come back. I think that there will be more semantic analysis with AI where they will say, would you like me to make this more professional? Because this seems to be in a professional context. But I hadn't thought of that. And that's a good one. It's like, take a step back from the ledge. Yeah. You have a lot of feelings. Yeah. But if you run it through the AI, guess what's going to happen? All those feelings are going to get pulled out of it because that's what it does. It flattens it back down. And if what you're trying to send is boring and not bad, but like boring, and it's doing a job and it needs to convey something, but that's all it needs to do, you can get that out of this. And there's a lot of value in that for a lot of people.
I still want to talk more about this, but I want to just very quickly jump to the 18.2 part because I need to reference that to make my point. So 18.2 is now out in the developer beta. One of the features is enhanced writing tools. So
yes,
it allows you to describe the change that you want to make to existing text, and you can also generate text completely from nothing with ChatGPT. So the reason I want to mention this is, for me, what I find to be very valuable with these tools is you're able to prompt them. And what I don't like about the 18.1 writing tools is you are just pressing a button that describes a prompt that Apple wrote.
Right. They wrote prompts and you press the button and the prompt goes in. Exactly. Yeah. And in 18.2, you can also try to write the prompt yourself.
Yeah. Because the experience I have with ChatGPT is I will say, keep the tone of this message, keep the tone of this text the same, recommend some adjustments. And what I find then is I have a much better hit rate of getting something to still sound like me. Like it's just maybe giving me some different words or rewriting it, putting some different punctuation or grammar in place to make the overall sentences read better, right? And for me as well, like when I do this stuff, I don't just take the output of it and just like paste it into whatever I want. I treat it as like a back and forth, really. Like, and I'll often still go in and make changes to what it's given me, but I get to a point where I feel a little bit more comfortable with the text. And so having these tools built into the system is really interesting, and I want to play around with them more. But I do like that now you have a little bit more say in what the change can be.
And you can see why they did it this way, right? In point one, it's sort of like we got all the guardrails in place. We're gonna make it just super safe and simple. And then in point two, they're like, all those other things are still there, but if you want to take control, it'll slide up a little keyboard that'll do the AI sparkle thing that they do. That's more showmanship, and you can direct it better. Also, the proofread tool is okay. It's not as good as Grammarly. It needs to improve. I got some false positives, but it's nice to have it, right? It's nice to, again, for free in the system to offer that is nice. And then the other stuff like summary, sometimes you want to read a summary of something and see if you want to read it. Sometimes you want to get a summary so that you can summarize it for someone else, and that it does I would say it does the initial work, and then you need to look at it and make sure it properly summarizes it. But I think that's interesting. The key points one makes me laugh, but I think it's super useful, which is a lot of people have bosses who are addicted to the executive summary. I used to have bosses who were like this. And it's like, imagine there's a 1,000-word memo that's going around, and then your boss is like, summarize it for me. It's like, the executive summary. Well, you know what? You do key points, and it literally makes a bulleted list with like bold items and then explanations of each of the bold items. And like, it's building an executive summary, which again, you need to go over as a person who's doing this to your boss, because some of them may not be key points and you may want to remove those, right? A little bit of editing work is always a good idea with stuff that's generated by AIs. But I look at that and I think somebody thought, oh my God, we could use the AI to generate an executive summary. It's such a great idea. And then, you know what? I love that they baked in a couple of text utilities into writing tools too. So the idea that if you've got something that's just people are writing text and it's literally like thing, number, and you're like, this should be a table, but they're like, yeah, but I don't know how to make a table. And all the controls are different when you're in table mode and all that. You literally select it and say table, and it just makes it a table. Or a list. If you've got like a paragraph that lists 15 things in it, that's just, they're here are the things we need. This, and this. You're like, you can select it and say list, and it turns it into a bulleted list of those things instead, properly formatted. And again, it's a little thing, but like, it's great. Like to intelligently take text and make it something, reformat into something more useful. I think that's really smart. So there's a bunch of perfectly good features in there. It's just a little bit basic. It's just because it's number one. It's V1. It needs to be better, but it is. There are things in it that are good, and there are things in it that are okay.
18.2 also introduces the first round of image tools, which includes Image Playgrounds, which is the AI art generation system, Genmoji, which is a generative AI emoji creation system, and Image Wand, where you can take a sketch or something with an Apple Pencil and have it, turn it into something else.
Yep. Something funny happened with this.
Okay.
Something very funny happened. The people who downloaded this beta immediately, you have to sign up and say, please allow me to do image generation. The people who downloaded it right away got the image generation. And as far as I can tell, everybody else who downloaded it after that first initial burst, it's just not on. It's just not turned on for anybody else.
So I've got a little bit more context in that. Like,
okay.
Some people have gotten in, because I know some people who were in what I am in, which is you're in the wait list, who got it.
Yes.
Who like, I downloaded the beta as soon as I could and went on the list. But I know people that have now gotten in after having been on the wait list, like for a few days. So, and
Okay,
Apple
so they haven't
said
stopped the wait list, but the wait list,
very
I haven't
slow.
gotten this feature.
Very slowly
I haven't gotten this
trickling
feature.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Apple gave statement to a couple of people. So Chance Miller at 9 to 5 Mac was saying that Apple said that they're letting people in very slowly, basically, and they're going to continue to let people in.
That's a statement I got too, which was,
okay.
I was just asking, hey, is this normal, and is there any way for me to use this feature? And the response was the boilerplate. Apple will, here's how this works, and it's like, okay, I guess that's my answer.
Yeah, but
I wish I could give you. The first thing I was going to do was send a Myke themed emoji to you.
Oh God.
First thing.
So I've seen some of this stuff, and it ain't good, man. So the image playground stuff is just bad. I just don't like any of the examples that I've seen. I've had sent to me, right? So a friend of mine made images of me and sent them to me, and they just don't look good. They look like versions prior. It's basically played out the way that I thought, which is the stuff that they are showing now looks like old versions of AI art. For example, there was a cartoony character of me, and my eyes were just these swirly blue things, which it's got that. I was like, oh, I've seen this kind of thing before.
Myke, I hate to tell it to you, but your eyes are swirly blue.
Oh no!
Yeah, what?
I've seen
when you're
hands
hypnotized
with 6 fingers.
Yes,
you know, I've seen all this kind of stuff from image playgrounds, and it's just it ain't good. It's just not good, and I'd hope that they at least were going to do a good job, and they haven't done a good job. So I don't understand the point of this.
Of the 3 of them, the one I'm least interested in is Image Playground. Yeah. Because honestly, I've got ChatGPT. I've got I can generate images all I want already, and I mostly
they'll
don't.
look better. They'll look better than
they will look better. However, Genmoji intrigues me because I like emoji. I like the fact that you can use Genmoji as tapbacks and things like that. And the idea that you're training on Apple's emoji design language to generate dynamic new emoji in a very constrained set of styles, a very constrained style, emoji style, I think has the potential to be fun, and probably the ones that are bad are not going to be as bad, and you'll just hit reload and get a different one. So I'm kind of interested in seeing how that goes and have some optimism there. And then Image Wand is the one that I think is funny, because I actually think Image Wand could be great, because I am terrible at drawing things. And I'm intrigued by the idea that I could do a very terrible sketch and then circle it and have them generate something that looks better. I'm not sure whether the thing that looks better will make me happy or not. Unclear. But as somebody who can't draw, I'm kind of intrigued by that idea. The problem, this is a marketing thing. The problem is Apple's marketing is beautiful hand-drawn sketches that then get turned into AI art when you circle them.
Because they can't
and it's
dare
the wrong
to have
thing.
something that looks bad. Right?
That's right. They can't bear to have a butt ugly, super bad stickman sketch from Jason that they're like, look at this crappy sketch by this guy who can't draw.
Situation, right?
Ooh, magic.
The things that are the prior to the AI look good, and in post look bad, because I've just
they did the thing. It was like a Buddhist temple or something, and they're like, this sketch is gorgeous, and they're like, screw that sketch. Whoop, now it's AI generated. I'm like, no, the sketch was beautiful. Fix my bad art. Don't fix that good art. But again, so I'm looking forward to seeing if it's capable of doing that, or if the truth is that my art is so bad that not even the AI can save it. I don't know.
I just sent to you in a message. I don't think I'm going to publish this yet, because I don't know what kind of metadata these files have in them, and this was sent to me from somebody else. This is an image of me, and you can see. Do you see?
It's
what I'm
totally
saying?
You.
But you can see
totally
it's
you,
me,
though.
Right? You can see it's me.
Yeah.
But it just looks bad, right?
You're like
it's just
a
bad.
boss in a Pixar movie.
Well, this was, quote, Myke as an angry CEO was the prompt that was given.
Oh, you don't look angry. You look...
I looked very disturbed, very upset.
Yeah, you look like one of your employees just set the office on fire. And you're thinking about being blamed for it by the board of directors. Yes, that's what this image is. Yeah, okay.
Do you see what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Also, Genmoji, right? Genmoji are cool in a way, right? Because you can make emoji of anything you want. But I've noticed a weird trend with the Genmoji that I have received in messages. You know when you're using Photoshop and you want to remove the white background from an image, and you kind of like use the tools, but you don't really do a great job, and there's like a little bit of white left around it? This is how every Genmoji looks for me, because I use my iPhone in dark mode. So like there's something going on with Genmoji where they're not entirely transparent.
Their alpha channel is not right.
It's like I don't understand what they're doing, but like there's like whatever is making these emojis leaving like a little white edge around them that doesn't look good. So yeah, very strange. But like the idea behind it is great. Like, you know, I could send an emoji of a duck wearing sunglasses if I wanted to. Like, and I do like that idea. That is a cool system, and I do think people are gonna really dig it. But I just wished that the image playground part just wasn't there, because I don't think that is it. But anyway, we'll talk more about this when me and you can actually get access to it.
Sure, that's true. Yeah, we'll talk. I'll just say as an aside, one of the ways that they could solve this is by not letting you model your images on people in your photos library.
Yeah.
Saying no, but instead they're like, yeah, use it. If they're in your photos library, they're fair game. And it does feel a little, do you feel a little violated by having an image of you sent to you by someone else?
If it wasn't from someone I trusted so much, then yes, I would.
Yeah.
You know, but like,
yep.
If an acquaintance just started sending these to me, like not like a close friend, then I'd feel weirded out by it. And that is the thing, like, anybody could make these for me. Anybody, because they're, you know, anyone can make this for anyone, because as long as you have pictures on the internet, people could just download images and just make something of you.
It's true.
And I can't get my head around that.
I will say that ZM Knox in the chat posted an image of, because they've got it, of a Genmoji, and it's a duck with sunglasses and dressed like, basically I'm going to say like a Miami Vice character, right? It's a t-shirt and a jacket, and it's a light colored jacket, and they're cool, man. And yeah, that's pretty good, which is why I'm encouraged that Genmoji might be something fun. So yeah.
ChatGPT integration in 18.2. So this is in a couple of ways where you can pass off commands from Siri will pass commands, right, to ChatGPT where it thinks it can't answer something. You can also ask Siri to do things like, you can say, hey, show me, tell me what's on the screen right now, and it will basically take a screenshot, send it to ChatGPT, and describe to you what it's looking at. Siri will prompt each time ChatGPT is going to be invoked. You can disable this if you want to in settings, but it will still do it for images and files no matter what. But it, so you can have it just seamlessly go to ChatGPT, get you the answer and return it. It always tells you that ChatGPT has been invoked, either by saying it. If you're speaking to Siri, it will say like, this came from ChatGPT, or if you're looking at the screen, then it will give you like a little disclaimer at the bottom.
Yep.
Because I signed in with my OpenAI account, I now have a setting where, I now have a thing where I just have like 20 new chats, they're called, because every single conversation I'm having that's going via the system is being saved in my account, but they're all just labeled as new chat, which is very funny to me.
That's less good.
Yeah, I in my kind of experience, really, I found like that speaking. I'm trying to find a way to phrase this. Like, speaking to Siri is not the same as speaking to ChatGPT. Like, there are questions that ChatGPT can answer via, say type to Siri, that Siri just doesn't answer. Like, but you can. What I'm saying is, I'm not sure how great a job the Siri system is doing at routing the questions, because there are things that I've asked Siri where it's like, oh, I don't know the answer to that. But if I put GPT or ChatGPT in the question, so you say I'm using type to Siri, it will route it and give me the answer that I need. And it's like, also, you know what I mean? It's like this. There, you can still see the seams of this. I think.
It feels that what I was going to say is that it feels like a very beta integration, right? The idea here is, I think it's a work in progress, right?
Yep.
And whether they think it's fine or not, I don't know, but I would imagine they don't, because it just doesn't seem quite all there. It's there, but the connectivity is kind of shaky, and it needs to be better. But so yeah, I have connected my ChatGPT account on one device and not on the other, so I can kind of see both experiences. But it's okay. I was also surprised that I was asking Siri questions that it would not pass to ChatGPT and just give me answers, and some of those were okay and some of those weren't great. Even if I have ChatGPT logged in and turned on, because it wants its take on it first before it goes to the other one. So I don't know. It's a work in progress, I guess, is what I'll say about it.
Yeah. Also, this version of ChatGPT that Apple is using is via the OpenAI API, so it's not connected to the internet. So the world knowledge that it has is limited to the point where the knowledge cuts off.
Yeah, that actually is one of those things that struck me, that they need to address one way or another, which is you need, in the long run, what you really want is the ability to query the internet and get information back. And right now what you've got is Siri, which is not smart, can query the internet. ChatGPT, which is smarter and is using a version baked, a year ago or 6 months ago or whatever, it can't look up things. And the ideal AI assistant is smart, but uses reference sources that are trusted, that are out in the world, and can look things up and then summarize them for you or answer them for you. And right now they're kind of in between. It's just a little weird.
This version 18.2 also includes visual intelligence, which I've used a little bit, and I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to use it for, and support for more English languages.
Yeah, it feels like it's not all there.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'm using it in the wrong circumstances, but like I started using it and it just says like, what are the two prompts? It's like, what? Or why? I'm like, what? Huh? What? It's just two buttons that you're supposed to do things with. I'm like, I don't know what these are.
3 buttons. There's a camera button, there's a question mark button, and there's an image button. And the question, the question bubble button, like speech bubble button, will ask ChatGPT for what you're looking at. And if you do the photo with the magnifying glass, it will query Google image search. But it's like I don't want to make the decision here.
I know. Well, this
search
is why it just feels it feels confused. I think I have some suspicions that they want this to be more integrated with, for example, with Google's AI, and they don't have that integration yet. So they're just using a reverse image search, which is something. But like the idea here is that visual intelligence should see your image and say, okay, here's what's going on. And instead, what I get is a still photo that's temporarily there, and then I can respond with image or huh, and maybe, or my understanding is if it's text, it will like say or translate, right? Okay, but like I don't know, it just doesn't feel quite right. It needs to be more and better and more intelligent, and it's just, again, it's developer beta 1 of first version of this feature, and that's fine, but like I was disappointed at how basic it seemed.
So the upgraders will be happy to know that they can look in the show notes and get that image of the Angry Myke CEO, because I have gotten consent from a friend of mine who made it. Because I just wanted to make sure, because like, I don't know. It's weird to get consent for an image that was made of me without my consent, but nevertheless, there is a... Consent's important. You know what that's what I'm trying to say.
I agree. I feel like maybe you have the rights to this, but...
yeah,
but that's fine.
I just didn't want to put them on blasting. You know what I mean? Like, this is a weird... We're in a weird time right now. But nevertheless, if you want to see it, it will be in the show notes. I put it in the Discord too, in case you want to see what Angry Myke CEO looks like. Then you got that.
Yep. He's not angry. I'm telling you, the building is burning down. Yeah, and he may be responsible. More English languages are supported in this version too. We've got
Yeah.
Australia, UK, Canada. There are a couple others, New Zealand maybe. But it's good news for you, I guess, because you could use UK English.
Yeah, I switched everything
1.2.
back, which I was happy about. So now I could have all of the settings back the way that I want them without having to think about it anymore. So I'm happy for that. There is one other feature that I was excited about, which is a 18.2 feature, but not, I don't believe, is App Intelligence feature, which is the mail categories. You know, you get like mail sorted into categories.
Yes,
but it's on the iPhone only.
I know.
What
right?
is going? Why? What is going on? Why would you do this? I don't.
Yeah.
I am so frustrated by this because I think it's actually really good, but I can't rely on this system if it's only on my iPhone. What are they doing?
I don't know. I don't understand it. I could maybe understand if they're like, oh, you know, mail on the Mac is complicated and it's old code base and it's going to take us some time to figure it out there. But here's the thing. It's not on the iPad either. And it's literally the same app. What are you doing? I don't get it. I don't understand it. It is a great feature, I guess, for people who only ever view email on their iPhone in mail. But what? It's too bad.
Yeah, because
I'm sure it'll come
really
eventually,
nice.
but I don't get why it's iPhone only.
Well,
it seems so weird and arbitrary.
I don't think it's coming in this version. I don't think it's coming in 18 at all. I went and took a look at the product pages, and both iPadOS 18 and macOS 15 have zero reference to this at all. So this is a next year thing, and I'm like,
why?
Gang, why bother, right? No one was expecting you could do anything for mail because you barely do anything for mail. Why did you do it this way? I'm so frustrated about it because it's genuinely really good. And I cannot understand why they do this, where they're like, they bring these apps together as if they look and act the same, but then split the functionality. And they're still doing this. I kind of can't believe that they're still doing this. We'll have more to say, I expect, in the coming weeks, I think, especially when the two of us get access to the image tools.
Interesting stuff.